Hello everyone, in this video I am going to make my own envelope shaper in the way that I would have done back when I had a studio and was working with analog gear. For simplicity, I've just got a stereo file here with some drums. Let's have a listen. There we go, some simple drums there. And all I'm going to do is just create three stereo groups. And I'm going to call this one drum phase 1. And I'm going to call this one drum phase 2. And the third one is going to be called Transients. So there's our three groups. Now I'm going to send the drums to both of the drum phase groups, turn them on. And I'm going to turn the drum fader down so you're only hearing what goes to the groups. Now I'm going to put one of the drum groups out of phase, which means flipping the audio signal upside down, so negative becomes positive, positive becomes negative, and they should now cancel each other out, which they do perfectly. Now I'm going to send those two, even though they cancel each other out and we're not hearing anything, I'm going to send both of those two to this Transients group. Now before I do anything else, I'm going to go into the mixer and I'm going to click on Q-Link, so that links what I do with the channels. If I do something on one channel, when they're selected, it will do it on the other. So if I send them to Transients, you'll see both of those channels have been sent to Transients. So now whatever happens with these two will be sent to this one down here. And what I'm looking at doing is just getting the transients out of the drum sound. And to do this, I'm going to use a compressor on each of these channels. Now, you could try this with one channel and an expander or a gate and then a compressor afterwards. But A, this is recreating something that I actually used to do back in the day in analog gear. And secondly, I feel that by bringing the characteristic of whatever your favorite compressor is to the table in this, it just makes it sound more realistic, and hopefully it's better than grabbing an envelope shaper plugin, which are very popular these days. I'm going to load a compressor, just a stock compressor, and with both of them selected, so when I move knobs it moves on both compressors, I'm going to turn the ratio fully up. In fact, I'm just going to put it on high and take the knee off for now. I'm going to bring the attack right down, the hold right down, the release right down. I'm going to turn off auto makeup gain, not interested in that. And I'm going to bring the threshold down quite a bit. And we're going to play the drums through that now. And you can see they're both reacting, but because they're reacting the same and they're out of phase, we're not hearing anything. Now, if I click off where I've got both tracks selected and I only click on one, I can now just edit the attack of one of the compressors. And with only a tiny amount of attack, you can really hear those little splutters of the transients popping through there, which is exactly what I'm looking for. Little bit of makeup gain. So now we've successfully isolated our transients. Now the transients may well be in or out of phase with the original drum signal, so we might have to swap that. You can hear as I turn it up, it's actually taking the transients off, so that means it's out of phase. So finally I'm going to flip the phase on the transients, the final group, and we'll turn them up again. And obviously if you want to flip the phase, you can take the transients out, so you end up with a more sort of roomy sound. Okay, so to me that just sounds better than using an envelope shaper. It sounds better than trying to use an expander or a gate to isolate bits of the kit and then pushing them up. This is just working on a stereo file. This isn't working on the individual multi-track as well. So it's kind of like a drum bus thing. Let's try something different. I'm going to bypass those compressors there. Let's try a multiband compressor. So I've got two multiband compressors now, and hopefully we'll hear no sound at all because they'll cancel each other out. Let's start doing the same thing. Turn all the attacks right down. Let's turn off auto release on all of those. Let's turn the release right down on all of them. Let's turn the ratios up a little bit. Let's pull the threshold down till you can see the various peaks happening. We'll adjust by ear in a minute. Just a little bit of activity on each one. And the good thing about doing this is when you start playing with the attack times to bring through the transients, you've got 4 bands to do it with. So I can bring the low end through differently from the middle and the high. So we've got a lot less cymbal bleed there because I'm treating the bottom end differently to some of the mid, to some of the high mid, to the high, which I haven't got any of at the moment. But you still get the transients. Now let's mix them in. And then, of course, while you're listening, you can adjust in real time. Obviously, I'm taking things a bit extreme here. I wouldn't have them that loud in a mix, but it's nice to know that you've got a fader you can just turn up to add a little bit more punch. So we've done it with a stock compressor and a multiband compressor. What other sorts of compressors work really nicely? Well, one that I like to use on it is the T-Rax bus compressor. Exactly the same thing. Bring the attacks and release down to nothing. I'm going to turn up the ratio. Let's play the drum loop so we can see some needle moving when I adjust the threshold. Now I click off, so I only got one selected, and turn up the attack. Now with both selected again, I'll adjust the threshold a little more. That sounds quite warm to me. That's not so harsh as the stock compressors. And you can, if you want, just for the transients, add some gritting, which I think sounds really nice with this particular compressor. Make sure you do it on both compressors. It has to be the same on both sides so the bits cancel out. A Waves one that I like to use for this kind of thing is the DPR 402. Select both the channels so that they're both being operated together. Turn the ratio up, attack and release down. This has got a particularly tight attack and release time, so this can sound really good depending on the style of the music. Let's mix them in with the real drums. That really tight release time does give the whole thing a bit more snap and might be a little bit too much for a lot of styles of music, but I could imagine that working with some genres of heavy rock and metal. At the moment I can't hear the high end that well because my ears are very blocked due to having a cold, as I said in a previous video, but I'm getting over it now and it's definitely not the other thing. So that's been a video showing you how to get some more punch in your drums. My favourite way is to use a stock standard compressor. And I also particularly enjoy the T-Rex bus compressor. But if you've got a lot of cymbals that are going to come through and you need to control the attack time and the amount you let through of different frequency bands to try and sort of get rid of hi-hat out of the snare mic or something like that, then using the multiband compressor is a great option too. It kind of acts like a gate and an expander, but it really isolates the transients with the character of whatever compressor you're using with a lot more detail than just using an expander or a gate. And you also end up compressing the signal at the same time, which really, really helps. To me, it just sounds much more realistic, sort of parallel mixing that underneath rather than using envelope shapers or multi-band envelope shapers, which to me just always sound synthetic and horrible. So I hope I've taught you something. Please like, share, subscribe, comment, tell me I'm stupid and there's a plugin that already does this that I could just click on and would work straight away. That's fine. Leave all that in the comments. This is kind of just recreating something I used to do with two stereo compressors back in the days when we did it all on a real mixing desk, and you bring the drum buses back to the channels, flip the phase and then send them to another group and then mix them underneath. It was a lot of fun back in those days. So I'm just recreating a bit of that magic for you now here in Cubase. Thanks a lot. See you in another video.